Visit Elmhurst.org to explore the new City of Elmhurst website. Find out the latest Elmhurst news, pay utility bills and parking tickets, report concerns, and much more. Elmhurst.org is an ideal way to discover what Elmhurst offers your business, your family, your life.
Welcome to Elmhurst Now, a cable television program about the stories and the people of Elmhurst, Illinois. I'm Ken Bartels, and I apologize for the voice, but the show must go on. And with me is the co-host of Elmhurst Now, the Honorable Mayor of Elmhurst, Pete DeCiani. And Pete, you may have to cover things a little more than normal here, but we have two great, wonderful guests here to start out our program. We have Police Chief Steve Neubauer, and we have Commander Jim Kvieten. And welcome, gentlemen. Steve,
thank you.
I want to start with you and ask you a question you've been asked, I don't know, 1,000 times maybe, and that is, how safe is Elmhurst? And I don't mean it in a rhetorical sense, but as we head into the summer season, a time when maybe people are a little less vigilant, I know you have a message for our citizens.
Well, we do. Elmhurst is a very safe community. There's 9 communities that border Elmhurst, and we are consistently of the lowest crime rate at the end of the year, which is good. But we do have crime. We're not crime-free, so people need to take care of their property, take care of sort of target hardening their houses, their cars, and be aware that they're in a metropolitan area so they can not be victims of crime.
So the whole lock it or lose it thing comes into play then?
Lock It or Lose It is one of our programs to help people remember to lock up their cars, their houses, lockers when they're at perhaps gym or working out to make sure that their property is secure. We have many times when burglars will roam neighborhoods at night and just go and unlock cars to take change, computers. People leave very valuable things in their cars. They leave their passports, their wallets, and then, of course, they wake up in the morning when it's gone. They have a serious problem trying to rebuild what they've lost. So simply locking your car can help.
I think the perception of the citizenry is that Elmhurst, while it may have a lot of the same problems that other communities do have, they're greatly lessened, and the confidence level in the police force is extraordinary, and you've earned that respect. But are there things that trouble you as police chief or commander, things that maybe the average citizen never thinks about?
Well, I appreciate the vote of confidence on the men and women of the police department. They do a great job to try and keep crime and those kinds of things at a minimum. But if you're the victim of the crime, of course, it's very, very important to you. So we try and make people understand that we do have problems with things like drugs in the community, alcohol-related incidents in the community, and burglaries and theft. So people need to be aware of it, and hopefully they can not become victims of crime. We've noticed an increase in drug usage in the last year with some very disturbing drugs, some heroin now showing up in the community that we hadn't seen before. And those things are all disturbing, and we like people to be aware of them so they can hopefully prevent those things from happening in their family.
I compliment the chief and all the manpower. I know we did the York seminar together, Chief, and we talked about taking the problem on head on at York High School, and Diana Smith, the principal over at York, very cooperative with our department and making sure that we try to stop the problem before it gets into York. But we've got police liaison at York working with the kids and the social workers to deal with this issue. But I really think it's really impressive with our department working with the other surrounding departments, actually going in and nipping the problem where the source is typically, which is to our east and
yes,
the Austin areas. I know you've been doing stings out there.
We have worked with Chicago police and some of the suburbs along Manheim Road where we find that this heroin is made available to Elmhurst residents. We could make arrests till the cows come home. We can't arrest our way out of these problems. That's why we did things like the York High School drug forum, so we can have some sort of prevention aspect to this also. People need to know and understand what the issue is, and then you can deal with the issue. Identify the problem, and it's very, very helpful to do it that way. But we have had some great success.
Well, I tell my family and friends that kind of a standard watchword for me is if it doesn't look right, it probably isn't right. And are there any guidance that you could provide as to if something looks suspicious, call or?
I get this all the time, as a matter of fact. I get it from friends and neighbors where they call me 2 days later. That doesn't help. What we would like people to do if they see something in their neighborhood that doesn't appear right to them, call 911. That's why we have police officers out there. We are glad to respond. You live in a neighborhood, you know what's best, you know what's usual in your neighborhood, and if it's unusual, please give us a call. If it's nothing, we certainly won't embarrass you and we'll be on our way, but we would love to check it out. That's how we capture burglars. That's how we capture people doing bad things in neighborhoods, is when a citizen tips us off and we can get there right away. So call 911. It's not a bother.
I think, too, in regard to the parenting issue with young children, and me being the father of 3, with the daughter going into York, I think, too, as parents, we need to, it really starts at the house and watching our kids and making sure we know where they're at and monitoring their friends. But I had a dear friend who approached me with his son who he realized was actually experimenting with drugs, and the chief was great. We got a police liaison with their family, and we nipped it. And so if parents, don't be embarrassed. The problem does happen occasionally, and we need to take it on head on. And we've got great resources. Frank Viscani, who was our middle school liaison at our middle schools, I think did a fantastic job and works well with the families. And again, with the social workers with 205, I think we've got some really great resources to take these problems on head on. So again, I think the problem is minimal compared to other communities, but again, our head's not in the sand. We'll take it on. So.
Well, yeah, I appreciate you pointing that out, because we don't have to arrest everybody to make our point. We have lots of resources. We have a social worker, Dave Hahn, in the community, who's helped with drug and family issues, alcohol issues. The school has been a great resource. Also, the parochial schools have been very much involved with identifying problems, kids who have problems, working through the police in the city to get those problems corrected. That's what we want.
Right.
We want people to have safe and happy lives.
Sure. Oftentimes, too, there may be parental problems, too, and we have Metropolitan Family Services, which is right here at City Hall, that offers counseling to parents. Sometimes there might be alcohol addiction or a financial hardship, and the parents are frustrated and have a tough time, too. So I think we've got so many resources at our fingertips. It's just a matter of making sure that the citizens of Elmhurst understand what's available to them, and we, again, tackle the problems head on, whether it's the child or whether it's the parent or both, So.
Absolutely.
Jim, I know one of your areas of expertise is railroad safety, and I know there was a high-profile suicide northwest of here, and we hear and read about these things on an all too frequent basis. But I know you were sharing before we came on air some of the statistics on Elmhurst, and perhaps you could share those and then maybe talk a bit on railroad safety.
Sure. It started actually back in 1994, after Elmhurst suffered a 12-month period where we had 3 fatal collisions. We were averaging at the time right around 1 fatal collision per year. We started a very elaborate program that we brought in the police department, the fire department, and all the different divisions of the city. And through this cooperative program that we've been doing for the last almost 16 years now, we've virtually eliminated all our railroad-involved collisions. And in that time, we've only now had 1 fatal collision over 15 and a half years. So it's been very successful.
With the clear identification and posting of the, don't take your car, don't try and beat the gate with your car, but don't feel like you can walk around the gate if you're a pedestrian. And does it continue to be a problem even though we haven't had any incidents?
It does, and you have to stay vigilant about the whole program. It's not just something that you can go out and do 1 or 2 or 3 times or once a year. Every time I teach a class about this, it's one of those things that I say there's no idea that's a bad idea. Because even an idea that you try that doesn't work, you've learned an approach that doesn't work, and maybe you need to try something else. So we've tried everything from putting cones down the center of the road, preventing people from getting out of line and going around the gates, doing enforcement, putting up signs like you mentioned, doing classes from kindergarten, preschool, all the way up through senior citizens. We've done enforcement. We've done a lot of different things. Comcast has videotaped 3 different public service announcements that have aired on Comcast. And of course, all the coverage by the media is very helpful because it keeps it in the front of everybody's thought process. As long as they're always thinking about it, they'll be safer on the tracks.
Well, it's just such a devastating thing for a community when something like that happens, even if it's excuse me, even if it's an intentional act. And so the vigilance becomes really important, not only for the police officers, but even the average citizen, particularly with maybe senior citizens or some other kind of disability evident near the railroad tracks.
Absolutely, and you know, with 2 sets of tracks that go through our town, we're blessed to have the transit, but it's also a challenge that we need to address, and we have been. And kudos to you guys. We've gotten great press and the enforcement, and it's important.
Mr. Mayor, you want to mention M-Finder?
Yeah, M-Finder is a program that actually was brought to my attention by a local resident who has a son with autism and was lost for a period of time, and she had done some research and on other communities and brought this to my attention. And actually, her name was Nancy O'Brien. She lives actually not too far from Mr. Bartels here. But her son was, I believe, 12, 13 years old and was gone for about half a day. Was later found, fortunately. But this is a location device that would actually be on the person's wrist, and actually Chief Neubauer did a lot of research and found this company, M-Finders, to be probably the best in quality, the best in being able to track somebody in a quick period of time. I believe the average time is about 13 minutes in tracking, and we're looking at trying to seek public funds to make sure that we can hopefully offer this to our constituents, whether it's a child, autism, Down syndrome, various disabilities that would apply to this. I take that personal because I have a daughter with autism, but also the seniors that are stricken with Alzheimer's and dementia and other conditions that where the caregiver is concerned about, being able to make sure that they're not in harm's way and they can always be trackable. So Chief, I appreciate your research and
well, I think it'll be helpful to us too, because from time to time we get missing people, and we expend a lot of manpower trying to locate them. We had a lady that I'd mentioned to you before, that elderly lady in the family thought she had fallen in a creek, and we're looking on the creek, and they said she certainly couldn't have gotten off the black because she was infirm. She was found in Lombard walking down the prairie path, so people can move pretty quick, and this is like a reverse cell phone, and it will ping a signal, and hopefully it will help us locate these people before they come into harm's way. So.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned too, it's not only trackable outside, but I think you could even be in a building, from what I remember.
Right, wherever you can get a cell phone signal, we'll be able to track people. So it'll be great. It's great comfort to the family, and it'll certainly help the police resources.
Great, and that's also linked in with the 911 system, I believe. Is that how that worked? Where they would call 911 and.
I believe when somebody knows, who subscribes to the service, that their loved one is missing, they simultaneously call the police and then call M-Finders. They have an 800 number, and they activate the signal then. So
very nice, very nice.
It all works together.
And again, we're seeking, given our budget, we're trying to expand programs, but at the same time, with tough dollars, we're seeking out private funds. We're reaching out to groups like ECAF and the Rotary and a couple of senior groups to look at the various funding sources, and look forward to hopefully having some answers and a program in place, city-sponsored program, but privately funded, so that we can make this work and bring something that's cost-effective to the community. So I'm pretty excited.
In an environment of tight dollars for everybody,
Mm-hmm.
It's important to understand that all of the departments of the city, starting with the police department, but not exclusive to them, are trying to maximize the dollars as best as they possibly can. We're going to wrap this segment up, but I wanted to give you both an opportunity to say anything that you haven't had a chance to say about safety in Elmhurst or the summer coming up ahead of us.
Well, the summer's coming up, and there's so many things people just need to be aware of, and it's a good community. Use your common sense. It's mostly when we see people who have problems and issues with the police, there's a bit of a lack of common sense. So use your common sense, and we're there for everybody. Please call 911 if you need us. We will do our best to help you out.
Jim, anything?
And with, excuse me, with the summer upon us, obviously there's a lot of pedestrians out walking around and a lot of, people out doing things in the nice weather around the railroad tracks. We want to make sure they're safe too. Our biggest problem in DuPage County is probably pedestrians rather than cars. So be safe around the tracks, look for a train, listen for a train, and you'll survive your interaction with the train.
Well, thank you both for being here. We want to thank, once again, Chief Neubauer and Commander Kavitan for being here on this first segment of Elmhurst Now.
There are several thousand collisions involving trains each year, which result in over 1,000 injuries and several hundred deaths. A majority of these deaths occur when someone is struck by a train while trespassing on railroad property. Remember, railroad property is private property. Trespassing along railroad property is not only against the law, it's very dangerous. Avoid taking shortcuts. The only safe place to cross railroad tracks is at a designated crossing. Don't get caught dead on the tracks. Stay off, stay away, stay alive.
We live in some of the best communities in Illinois. We care about our neighbors. We work hard to preserve our quality of life. But there's something we forget about in Elmhurst. A river runs through it, and it's up to us to protect it. Our storm drains flow to Salt Creek, and that means our harmful waste does too. So try using fewer chemicals on your lawn. Avoid leaking fluids from cars. And grow native flowers and plants to absorb more rainwater. Don't muddy the waters. Do your part to clean up Salt Creek.
Welcome back to Elmhurst Now. I'm Ken Bartels along with Pete DeCiani, and Mr. Mayor, we have a couple of new guests for us, and perhaps you'd do the honors.
Absolutely, new distinguished guest, my dear friend Kurt Sheely, the general manager and owner of Elmhurst Toyota, and also Jim Magnelli, who is Kurt's right-hand man over at Elmhurst Toyota, and another GM that runs the show while Kurt's making sure all the family dealerships on Lake Street are doing well. So we welcome you guys and appreciate all that you do. And how's the car business? We're trying to push this Big Shop Elmhurst campaign, and I can think of no better product to shop than our cars. And fortunately, we've got one of the, I think, the best car dealers with your group, Elmhurst Toyota, in our community. It does so much and brings so much to our town, not only in what you guys give back, but for every car you guys sell, it's almost like, I believe for every $25,000 car, the city receives about $250 in sales tax.
1%.
1%. And so I'm really pushing this. With about 30% of our residents purchase their cars in town, and 70% actually purchase outside of town. And I'm really trying to push, with revenues the way they are, one, it's the right thing to do, and two, from an economic standpoint, it's just a win-win for Elmhurst. And I want you to talk about your dealership and all the great things that you do over at Elmhurst Toyota. I had the privilege of just purchasing a Prius from you guys, and you guys did a great job. You made the mayor go green.
Finally, yes.
And but Kurt, I know you did a lot in the dealership that was rebuilt not too long ago.
Yeah, 2003. We rebuilt the Toyota store. We moved from our old location to our new location, and we rebuilt the entire, started the Toyota store from scratch, actually, and then remodeled both the BMW store and the Jaguar Elmhurst store. It was about a 7 to 8 year project in total for us, but we really liked the way it turned out and couldn't think of a better town to do business, and we really love Elmhurst a lot. I mean, well, for Toyota, this will be our 43rd year doing business in Elmhurst with the Toyota franchise, and with BMW in British Leyland, Jaguar, it used to be called British Leyland. We're talking, close to 50 years now that the Sheelys here. Our family has been in this town doing business and selling automobiles.
Sure. And I think the key, especially in the last few years and since 2003, was the investment that your family took and made into our community. I thought was huge. It is part of a TIF district that is an incentive district to help push redevelopment, and so I know there was long before I became mayor that this took place, and going into your showroom and looking at what you've done to really, I think, kind of resemble what Elmhurst is all about. It's almost like you built the showroom into a downtown Elmhurst.
Well, that was really the fun part about it back in 2000. Well, actually going probably back to 2000, 2001 in the preliminary plans. was, we were looking at a lot of different ways of, what are we going to do different in our showroom? What are we going to have something fun, and what better thing to do than build the, in a large showroom to build the city you've been doing business in for 43 years, the city of Elmhurst. I mean, we have everything from Willis Johnson, the York Theater, his display of his theater in the showroom, and the old Elmhurst Federal Building, and the Fisher Schoolhouse is the kids' play area. I mean, it's authentic enough as the street lights are the same ones that are downtown Elmhurst, and the street signs and whatnot. And I got to tell you, after 2003 till now, I mean, every day I walk into that showroom, it's just still amazing to see.
Yeah. You talk about the schoolhouse, and last night at the council meeting, I presented a check to the school district for release from your TIF district, TIF District 2. Actually brought a copy of the check, which I thought would be kind of compelling, but people wonder in Elmhurst how TIFs work. And there's a check that we gave out last night for $434,000 as a surplus, not as a release, but as a surplus to the TIF. And that is, I think, a compelling indication of how well the TIF has worked, how well your organization has done and given back, built the tax base. The whole idea is to build our property tax base and also build our sales tax base. And I think for so long people don't realize how in 1976 when I moved here at Elmhurst, 19 cents on the dollar went to the city on the tax dollar, on a property tax dollar. And today it's at 9 cents. And the only reason why it would be that low is because of other revenue sources, sales tax, which is huge. So I am really trying to make sure people realize how important it is. For every $25,000 car, $250 goes right back to the city. That's virtually the sales tax we take in off of a $300,000 home.
Well,
so,
and the TIFs are the perfect example of the city working with businesses in a specific area to take all the resources available and prioritize what needs to be done and get it done.
Right.
And then when it works as well as this, that's a great story.
And I know there were opportunities, where other areas where your dad had owned land, and so I think Mayor Marcucci and the previous administration did a great job at really making sure that we kept you guys here, and we appreciate what you invested into our community.
And we're so happy to be here. I mean, it is a great town. It is a great community. We have lots of friends and people that we know, and after doing business in Elmhurst this long, we really feel part of the community, and very fortunate to be in Elmhurst. Wouldn't do business anywhere else in Elmhurst.
With the recession, how are you guys doing? I know it's been tough.
It's a bit tumultuous few years, a couple years actually. But things are actually starting to turn around, and that's really good. We're seeing some real positive signs. I got to tell you, manufacturers out there have some great incentive programs right now that are going on. They're out there and they're hungry for the business. So, and the banks have also loosened up a little bit. And before it was very difficult to get a loan, even a car loan. It's not really the case anymore.
Right.
So things are really starting to turn around nicely.
Right. And
I was going to say, Jim, you see the same things, or
I see the same things with the lenders, with the manufacturers, loosening up a little bit, helping consumers. We've been seeing a little bit of obviously opportunity just for customers to come in, and we're having an opportunity to provide a car to the family.
Sure. And I know leasing for a while was real competitive. Then it kind of went. Now I know I leased my Prius through you guys, and the residuals were incredible.
Right, leasing's come back really strong, and I'd say in the last 7 months, and it's because the manufacturer really kind of dived back in to give the opportunity to get back into leasing.
Right.
And where we've seen it is on the used car side, we see less and less opportunity to get cars. So now that we're leasing more, we're getting that turn back in the next 3 years, and we're seeing cars more opportunity for customers.
Right.
I think a question I would have for both of you is the future, however you want to define it for your business, but what gives you concern and what gives you encouragement? I mean, businesses always have things that they're worried about, but then also what gives you encouragement for the future?
Well, in terms of concern, I actually, after being through the last couple of years, I mean, boy, talk about concern.
You've already done that.
Yeah, I've already been through the concern part there. But things are really looking up and really looking at the future of the automobile business. Obviously, things like Pete's Hybrid, the Prius, and electric vehicles, and the lithium-ion plug-in Priuses that will be coming, or any of the manufacturers with the hybrids, and electric vehicles like the Nissan, and there's a lot of there's going to be a very big green movement in automobiles, and that'll change. It's an infrastructure deal to, you got to make sure you be able to charge a car and be able to get to where you want to go and not run out of battery power like a cell phone or something like that. But, there's a lot of great product that are coming out there, and I think that, the day and age of sometimes the bigger motors and the other things, as gas prices go and change and things change, we're going to see a pretty large increase in those type of vehicles. It's exciting, actually. It's a new change. It's a nice change.
Sure. And we talk about the strong tradition of family car dealers in this town. We've got the Roches, we've got the Sheelys, you've got the Myzingas at the Ford store. I think we're really a unique town in that we've got, 50 years in your family. You mentioned.
Yeah.
It's incredible that they have that kind of family tradition. And I know you guys work with all the other dealers, and you're close with the Roches and the Myzingas and the Honda guys. And
Sure.
I think that's one thing nice about Elmhurst is that we encourage competition because it actually drives. If they're not going to buy a Toyota, they're going to buy a Honda. If they're going to buy a Ford, they're going to buy a Chevy. So we've got, I think a good variety of dealers, and always looking for more. We've got a couple spots that we're trying to fill. So as a mayor, I'm out there knocking on doors.
Elmhurst is a great location to purchase automobiles. We're so centrally located in the heart, pretty much of anything. It's like the big bullseye map, and hit that red dot, and that's Elmhurst. And there are a lot of great dealerships, a lot of family-run good dealerships in Elmhurst that take care of a lot of customers. And it's very convenient for people to come not only from Elmhurst, but from places like Bensonville and Villa Park and Addison and Northlake and Oak Park and Bloomingdale. It's easy access. With all the highways we have, with 294, 290, 83, everything is right there to get to us. It's quick, it's convenient.
Mm-hmm. And years ago it was always, especially if you had a used car, you'd maybe service it someplace else. But your rates and service, your oil changes are so competitive. You've got such a great service, center in your facility there, and then you've got the ability to wait in a lobby area where you've got internet and a schoolhouse for the kids to play in. I see kids in there with their big wheels spinning around the floor.
That's my office every day.
Yeah, so I think the whole conduciveness to do business and keeping your service rates so reasonable and but at the same time quality manufactured parts, which are important. I think for people, you buy a Toyota or you buy a Ford, you want it serviced at the place you buy it at. So I think that's important too.
What's really important, Pete, with the service aspect is dealerships in the past, they were basically a place to more or less repair your car, maybe get your oil changed and whatnot. Boy, the times have changed. Dealerships now have battery services, tire services, oil change services, alignment services, quick services that they're really fast about things, being able to get people cars to drive if it takes longer. I think the whole area of the service department with car dealerships, plus the factory-trained technicians, I can't tell you. I spend a great deal of money with our family on training our technicians at our dealerships. These guys have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of training, and when they work on your car, it's nice to know that you have somebody that really knows what they're doing when they touch your vehicle.
I know some of your lead mechanics back there are York grads that went through the automotive program, and these guys are making close to six figures as mechanics, and I'm proud to see that.
Yeah, it's a great thing. Those guys work really hard in the back, and they get the job done, and they do a really good job. And number one important thing is they take care of the customer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the overall vitality of the city is greatly driven by retail sales tax, and the automobile dealerships have always been a key driver of that. Now, you want balance and you want diversity, but the bottom line on it is that, how many times, Pete, have you and I heard, if the car dealers are doing well, Elmhurst is doing well.
Absolutely.
And that puts a lot of pressure on you guys, especially when we come out of what we've been through the last couple of years. I think people in general are trying to find reasons to be more optimistic. And what I'm hearing from the two of you is at least another reason that people watching this program can have some reason to be more optimistic.
Absolutely.
Well, when you see the customers, obviously an automobile is the second usually largest purchase next to a home for a consumer. We're obviously the first ones to feel when things are not right, but we're really starting to see a lot of folks coming in and not just kicking tires. They're interested in buying cars. A lot of things on the internet, the websites, and so it's a very encouraging sign.
It's great. And, you know, when we talk about Shop Elmhurst, you know, naturally cars are key because 70% of our residents currently buy their cars outside of town. That's got to flip. That's got to change. If we do that, that will bring great revenue to our town, keep our tax base low. Even with the recent levy that we, as a council, had to pass, we're still, I believe, out of 36 DuPage communities, I believe we are, we went up 2 spots, I believe, so we're still, I think we're at 32 or 32nd lowest out of all the communities in DuPage County, with you know, virtually the only ones beating us out is like Oak Brook, who has virtually no tax because they have a mall. But it's key to keep that, you know, whether it's you're buying your clothes, whether, you know, I'm wearing a Leonard's outfit today, or you're shopping locally and eating locally at our restaurants. We've got beautiful restaurants in our downtown and throughout the community, or it's purchasing a car. It's the total package. And fortunately, we have the venues, I think, to offer our folks. And we've got great families that I think have good deals, priced competitively, you service, and if there's a problem, you're there. And that's when you really find out if they're, and fortunately there hasn't been many problems, but when they do arise, I know you guys put the fires out quickly.
There's always a problem.
Sure.
You take care of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Take care of the customer.
The problem, you take care of the customer.
Right.
That's the most important.
And that's why you guys have been around for 50 years.
Yeah, hopefully another 50.
So.
Well, we appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
And the opportunity to chat not only about the success of your franchise, but as I said, the rebounding effect that I know you and I are seeing across Elmhurst. Elmhurst not only location driven in terms of a really great asset, but all of the different enterprise centers within Elmhurst, you know, Lake Street and Grand Avenue and York Road and the City Center and York and Butterfield and Spring and even the Riverside Drive area. That makes it a pretty unique place to not only do business, but to search out what you need to find as a consumer.
Absolutely. And we appreciate the previous administrations for putting in the tools so that we could retain you guys and keep you guys strong. And I could tell you, as a progressive mayor and with a progressive board, I think that's backing me up. We will use these tools to our best of our ability, hopefully give out more of these checks to our school districts. And I think that was just a great thing to be able to do yesterday, given our economic times at our state and the education. And also even look at making this even larger. I know the rest of Lake Street could use a little cleanup, and we're going to try and do whatever we can to attract, and the tool of these economic tools that we have at our disposal will do the best we can to utilize those tools.
We appreciate that.
Pete, a word of close on Shop by Elmhurst?
Please, we need the revenue, and we've got the great venues, I think, to shop Elmhurst, purchase your cars, your appliances, your clothes. We've got, I think, great venues to do that. And why not shop right in your own town? Because for every dollar you spend, 1% of that revenue will come back to the city, and it's $250 a car. And on the average car, those are, and not to mention that you're going to get great service, you're going to get great quality product. I think we've got the best line of automobiles, not only from Toyota, but the rest of the lines that are represented by the various families that have dealers here. And it's a great town to buy in, so why not shop this community? And you know what? When you're out there shopping, make sure these guys get last shot, because the key is you got to buy. Right. That's
a shop buy program. It's not just a shop.
Go ahead and shop. Please come to us last.
And these guys, I'm sure, will give the best deal they can and make you happy. And I think that's key. So I thank you guys for all your help and your dedication.
Thanks, Kurt, Jim. Thank you for being here. This has been Elmhurst Now, which is a program about the stories and the people of Elmhurst, Illinois. For Mayor P.T. Ciani, I'm Ken Bartels. This never seems to happen to Larry King, but we'll see you next time.
Hi, I'm John Quigley, President and CEO of the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce and Industry. In these challenging economic times, it's imperative that our residents and businesses band together to not only shop Elmhurst, but buy Elmhurst whenever possible. We have great stores in our city center, Spring Road, Butterfield Road, York and Villette Streets, St. Charles and Route 83, North Avenue and Lake Street, along North York and even Grand Avenue. I ask for your help. Let's keep our tax dollars in Elmhurst.
Hi, I'm Elmhurst Police Chief Steve Neubauer. Elmhurst is a great place to live and work. However, we are not crime-free. Many people in our community become victims of crime simply because they did not lock their belongings. I would ask you to do two things. First, lock your car, house, and bike. Secondly, call 911 to report suspicious activity to the Elmhurst Police Department. The Elmhurst Police Department reminds you to lock it or lose it.
This is no place for the Tour de France, and this is no place for NASCAR. But in everyday life, bicycles and cars do share the road. I'm Robbie Ventura. I spent 4 years riding with Lance Armstrong and the U.S. Postal Team. I've coached hundreds of cyclists who compete around the world, and I can tell you it's no accident when everyone gets where they're going safely. The key is to know the rules of the road. For example, cyclists have a right to be on the street, and people in cars have an obligation to watch out for them. Often the road is the only way for people on bikes to get where they're going, and some sidewalks are even more dangerous than streets. Finally, some communities allow kids to ride on the sidewalk, but it may be illegal for adults. When cyclists are on the road, they're supposed to obey all traffic laws, signs, and signals, always riding in the same direction as cars in their lane. Some cyclists feel safer riding against traffic where they can see oncoming cars, but that's actually more dangerous because cars have less time to slow down and go around them. People on bikes should also ride predictably and signal so drivers know what they're planning to do. Cyclists turning right may do this, or this. Here's what a left turn signal looks like, and if you see this, expect the cyclist to slow down or stop. Whether you're riding or driving, it's also important to know your place on the road. Bicycles should stay as far to the right as practical, but they may have to ride farther out into the lane if there's broken glass, rocks, and other debris by the curb or on the shoulder. People on bikes also ride farther into the lane on narrow roads to keep cars from passing too closely, or they might be moving across the lane getting ready to turn left. Like drivers, cyclists are supposed to use designated lanes if they're planning to turn. Whether you're in a car or on a bike, you should also use extra caution in key situations or danger zones. Take passing, for example. When going around a cyclist, a driver should allow at least 3 feet between the vehicle and the bike. More is better, especially for a cyclist going up a hill or on a high-speed road where fast-moving vehicles can generate strong air currents. On a narrow road, you might have to move into the next lane to pass safely, and that can mean waiting a few seconds for oncoming traffic to clear. Be patient. Turning can also put you in a danger zone. Say you're in a car planning to make a right turn, but there's a cyclist to your right or riding behind you. People are often tempted to speed up, get ahead of the bike, and make that turn, but doing so could cause a crash. If there's any chance you're going to block the path of a bike on the road or a parallel bike path, wait for the cyclist to pass before turning. How much time do you lose by slowing down and playing it safe? As you can see, it's only a matter of seconds. And when you're turning or changing lanes, don't forget about your blind spots. After checking your mirrors, always look quickly to your right or left. Another major risk is a car turning left into the path of an oncoming bike. In these situations, drivers may misjudge the speed and distance of cyclists or fail to see them. Bikes are smaller than cars, so they're harder to see and may appear further away. But some could be moving pretty fast, 20 or even 30 miles an hour.
And if the cyclist is going straight, he has the right of way.
Bike paths or sidewalks that run parallel with the road may seem like fairly safe places, but these too can be danger zones. A driver making a turn might be focused on the road and not see a cyclist traveling on the sidewalk or path until the last minute. Someone riding on a sidewalk or path in the opposite direction of a driver is even less likely to be seen. So in these situations, drivers should be extra careful, checking the sidewalk or path for cyclists or pedestrians. People on bikes should ride defensively. Watch for motorists making a turn and be prepared to stop. Another danger zone involves driveways or alleys. Drivers and cyclists often cruise right into the street, pulling out of a driveway or alley, looking for cars in the middle of the lane, but not for bikes or pedestrians on the sidewalk or on the right side of the road. And if you're only looking to your left for oncoming traffic, you won't see a cyclist coming from the other direction. You have to remind yourself every time to take it slow and look both ways before entering the road. Cyclists riding along parked cars are in another danger zone because drivers and passengers sometimes open doors. This happens so often, cyclists actually have a name for it, being doored. So if you're getting out of a parked car, always look over your shoulder to make sure no cyclists are coming. And cyclists may want to ride farther into the lane. One final danger zone is right behind the wheel or handlebars.
You're blocking the road. I'm trying to get by here.
You have to give me room. You have to wait a second.
When you're on the road, conflicts can occur, and it's tempting to express yourself. But getting angry, hostile, or abusive doesn't help. And it can take you to places you never intended to go. Aggressive behavior can lead to criminal charges. Revving your engine, blasting your horn, yelling, or pounding on a vehicle can result in legal action against drivers or cyclists. The best advice for anyone on the road is to stay calm, exercise caution, be patient and courteous. Share the road, show respect, and always be on the alert, especially in those danger zones. When passing a cyclist, leave at least 3 feet between car and bicycle. More is better. Be patient when passing and when turning right. If there's any chance you'll block a bike in your lane, on the sidewalk or side path, slow down and wait for the cyclist to pass. If you're making a left, remember that oncoming cars and bikes have the right of way, and that bicycles may be moving faster than you think. Don't forget to check your blind spots and to signal whenever passing or turning. Be especially careful when leaving a driveway or alley. Check the street and sidewalk in both directions for cars, cyclists, and pedestrians. And look for bikes before getting out of a car that's parked in the street. Finally, keep in mind that you're not in a race where NASCAR meets the Tour de France. When you share the road, the reward is everyone gets where they're going safely.